I've owned my own catering business, but I've never been a business owner to this caliber. And it really changed my mindset. It changed my habits. It's changed me personally for the better. And, it's just, I could have never gotten this far without the academy. And I just know 100% that that decision changed my life forever. And it really showed me that this is where I want to be, and these are my ideal clients. And now I know how to speak to them and how to service them and how to be the specialist. And I would have never been able to, I mean, I would have done it by myself, but I never would have been able to cut out the time that it's, saved me.
So I'd love to kind of just start, like, get a recap from you. What has your journey been like? Just deciding to start a bookkeeping business. We can just kind of start at the beginning. What made you want to do that, and what's your background?
Yeah, okay. So I was a professional chef for 20 years, and once COVID hit, it was kind of like we weren't essential, right? And so it really got me thinking, and I was like a brand new mom. I just had a baby right when the country shut down. She was 3 months old, and so that was my opportunity to, make some changes in my life, and I went back to what do I love? What can I do? What can I do to stay home with my new baby and not work in the kitchen for 14-hour days? So, after doing a lot of online research and trying to dig into what I had a passion for, and lo and behold, there was the academy, and it just checked all the boxes for me. And I thought this could be really good. So yeah,
Yeah.
I started the academy in on the very last day of 2020. And so I was like, this is the new year. I'm gonna try something new. So I just loved it immediately, and I knew it was for me. And being able to just develop my skills with the help of the mentors has been awesome. So I started my business in 2021, and just kind of thought I wanted to work with restaurants, but wasn't really making the jump into the niche. Very scary thing to do, as a lot of people know that, what if I close off other business by niching down? But the restaurant people those are my people. Being a chef for 20 years, that's who I knew, and that's who I like to help. And so I joined the restaurant mastermind in May of 23. And that was a great decision for me because it really showed me just the ins and outs of things that I didn't know, but I already knew the industry so well. And this was just that extra layer of, things that you don't actually learn in the academy because it's not niche and industry specific. And so for me, it was just that catapult to buckling down in the restaurant industry, and it's been amazing. So in a
Awesome. Awesome. I
nutshell.
love that. Yeah, I love that. So a couple things that I thought of that I want to ask you. I hear a lot from our graduates from our programs that the bookkeeping business in general checked all their boxes. That's like, I've heard that over and
Yeah.
over again. So I'd love to know for you, what were those requirements that you were looking for in a business that you wanted to start?
Yeah, sure. So for me, the main boxes were I'm a little bit of a control freak, and so I could control my hours, I could control my char what I charge and what is paid to me, and I could control, who I get to work with. And my biggest thing is I refuse to work with mean people, and so this was just really a way for me to control all those things and work my baby was sleeping or, napping, and be able to still have the downtime that I wanted, the important holidays or birthdays or whatever, and still, have a balanced life, so to speak. And so bookkeeping for me, I've always loved numbers. I always loved math. And I know there's not a lot of math involved in bookkeeping. So that, you know, it was like, well, I can learn this. And I didn't have any experience, you know, as a chef. And so I was like, I was a little bit doubtful, but once I started getting going, like it all just clicked and it just made sense. And it was so easy for me to pick up. And I just was kind of a natural at it. And now I can pull financial statements and I can see where the holes are and, you know, how to plug these holes in your boat. And I've kind of gravitated towards advisory just because, like, you know, a lot of clients, they kind of look to us for advice. And if your hands are on their numbers constantly, then you're the person they're going to ask. And so I started developing my skills around that and being able to help more people. And I know a lot of chefs that went out of business when COVID hit because they didn't have their numbers, you know, organized and in place. And that was my mission, was to help those people to not have to close their business because they're not financially, they don't know where they stand. And
Yeah.
so I love to educate and help with that. But yeah, it's been a fun journey.
That's awesome. Yes, I know. And I love that, you know, just learning the basic bookkeeping, it's even just doing that is so life-changing, but it can also just be the very first step in your journey and like a stepping stone to even more growth and services that you can offer and
Yeah,
all kinds of stuff.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just it was kind of a gateway for me to, I've never been, you know, so I've owned my own catering business, but I've never been a business owner to this caliber. And it really changed my mindset. It changed my habits. It's changed me personally for the better. And, you know, it's just, I could have never gotten this far without the academy. And I just know 100% that that decision changed my life forever. And it really showed me that this is where I want to be, and these are my ideal clients. And now I know how to speak to them and how to service them and how to be the specialist. And I would have never been able to, I mean, I would have done it by myself, but I never would have been able to cut out the time that it's, you know, saved me by picking from people who've already done there and been there and done that and picking their brains. And it's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what like all of the mentorship is really about. You know, you could self-teach yourself just about any of this, but the time, the headache, the confusion that's going to be involved in that, you know, like not knowing, is this right or not, you know? So being able to skip over all that frustration and just
Yeah.
having someone guide you, this is the right path, go this way,
Hmm.
just helps you. It protects your overall, you know, profit too,
Yeah.
because you're not going to be, you know, spending money or, you know, trying things that don't work.
Yeah. Yeah, or sitting there researching things that you don't know about, and
Yeah.
you can just go to a mentor. And, you know, tips was a big one for me.
Mhm.
Restaurants have a lot of nuances around tips,
Yeah.
and that was something that if I didn't have that restaurant mastermind, you know, that would have taken a larger learning curve than it already was. And so just those little details that, you know, you don't know until you don't know what you don't know. So it's like
Yeah.
until you actually have to cross that road, you're like, what do I do?
Mhm.
It was just a saver for me.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And then the time that you don't have to spend researching things and, you know, putting your own time into learning, you can use that time for marketing. So it pays.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
which again is easier because you know who your people are, you know what you're talking about, you know what to say. And you know, I've always been taught if they're nodding your head when you're speaking to them, then you're speaking to the right people. And so that's just it. It's like I've already grown up in that world. I already know their lingo. I know what they go through. I know the restaurant industry like the back of my hand. And combining those two skills of my experience was,
Mhm.
you know, one of the most beneficial things that I've ever done for myself and my life and my family.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.